Hello, everyone out there in podcast land. Welcome to the Front Row Movie Reviews, the podcast for people who actually like movies and TV. And we are here for episode 2 of Discovering Star Trek, our look at Star Trek Discovery, the newest Star Trek TV show to hit kinda TV, but now all streaming. And we are looking at episode 2, The Battle of the Binary Stars. My name is Scott, and with me is...
Mike.
And Kevin.
There we go. They got it right this time.
And the other one.
And his friends. Okay. For those who are just joining us after checking out episode 1, welcome back. For those who, for some reason, checking this episode out before episode 1, a reminder that there will be spoilers ahead. So we are going to be spoiling episode 2 of Discovery and discussing it in full. So if you have not seen episode 2 of Discovery, which again is available on CBS All Access, please go back and check that out legally or whatever, however you decide to check it out before listening to this. So with that, we'll go immediately into our discussion. So first impressions of the second episode, Battle of the Binary Stars. We'll go with Mike first.
Loved it.
You're such a great host, Mike.
I know. I'm sorry.
Good commentary.
I thought it was a really solid episode, and it's obviously this first 2 episodes were really essentially a movie. I mean, they were a 2-part arc in and of themselves. So my feelings from the first one carry over. I thought it was a great episode.
Kevin, what about you?
Well, I was a little disappointed in one of the plot aspects that's going to be ongoing story point. It seems, well, let me back up a little bit. My favorite side character from The Next Generation is Ensign Ro Laren. And after we get done with the second episode, it feels kind of derivative. The Michael character seems kind of derivative of Ensign Ro. So that's an unfortunate piece of it. I'm still not sold on the Michael character. We'll see how that evolves over the next few episodes. But other than that, I also thought it was a pretty good episode. As I said in the first review, I didn't have my expectations real high, and they were exceeded. And I thought that both episodes were pretty solid for the most part. So I do want to watch more and to continue with the series. I'm not going to turn it off after the first 2. I still have a lot of hope that Nicholas Meyer is going to be able to make this his own.
And Mike, what about you?
Did we not discover me?
Huh? Oh, did you do first impressions? I thought. Yeah. Yes, you did. Okay. I'm sharing the video, so I'm not. Yeah. Okay. I swear I'm paying attention.
You're being
okay.
It is like 11:30, so.
Yeah. Okay. So with me, I agree. This is really a second part of a 2-parter, especially when we know now, based on what the head writers have said, who really didn't have much to do with the writing of this episode. Again, story credit goes to Brian Fuller, who's no longer part of the show. We know this as pilot number 1, and pilot number 2 is going to be episode 3. So as we kind of mentioned in episode 1's discussion, we're going to have a big off-ramp coming one way or the other. Most of these characters we're seeing in episode 2, we're not going to see in episode 3 because some of them die and some of them probably will not carry over onto Discovery itself. But I do like that we get to see more of the Klingons, and we get to have more of their side of things here. And it's interesting to see where that goes. And I do like how this initial battle becomes hot. I mean, we're told the Klingon war has been a Cold War for over 100 years. There's been some times where they have attacked. Obviously, they've killed Michael's parents in an attack years prior, but we haven't had much in the way of a fight. And in this case, the Klingons and the Federation go toe-to-toe. And I also like the fact that the Federation gets its ass handed to them, because we're going to have to see this is not the Federation that we're used to of, TNG, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, to where they are probably the biggest fleet on the block and have the most advanced tech. These are smaller ships. They don't have the best shielding, and many of them get destroyed. So I did like that in this. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the things we liked in general about the episode. Mike, you can go first this time, and I will pay attention this time.
Sure. Again, I think the production value remained high. I'm trying to grasp for really specific things, because in general, there's just nothing about this show so far that has been a super low point for me. There was the scene where Michael has to escape her imprisonment. I thought was a little bit on the cheese side, unnecessary. But other than that, man, I think the episode for the most part remained pretty consistently solid throughout.
And I do want to correct one thing. I'm looking at the Wikipedia now. A story by Brian Fuller for both these episodes, but Battle at the Binary Stars, I've been saying that wrong, is actually the teleplay written by Gretchen Berg and Aaron Harberts, who are the showrunners now. So the teleplay for this episode was written by the showrunners, whereas in Vulcan Hello was written by Brian Fuller and Akiva Goldsmith, who both have taken a step away from the show. So there is actually a dichotomy there. And also it's a different director. Adam Kane directed episode 2, whereas in David Semel directed episode 1. Kevin, what about you?
Well, I didn't really pick up on, and I'd really like you to expand on the direction. I didn't pick up on the finer points of the direction that you didn't care for. Why don't you get into that a little bit?
Mike?
I thought that was directed at you.
Oh, was it directed at me? Did I say something about the direction?
Yes, you did.
Oh, I did?
But you mentioned Dutch angles, I think.
Oh, well, that was actually, to be honest, I think this comes from the different director. I didn't notice it as much in episode 2. Maybe because we have more we have some more space battles and stuff as well too. So I didn't notice the Dutch angling as much in episode 2 as I did episode 1. There are a couple times where it's still there, but I noticed a distinct use of Steadicam more in episode 2 than I did in episode 1. So yeah, I think the direction was a little better in episode 2, honestly. So, Kevin, what are some things you liked about the episode?
I really like the look of the set design. I think it's both respectful of the history of Star Trek while still doing its own take on it. I'm really sad that the original captain isn't going to be in the show any longer. I think she was probably
she takes a bat lift to the chest. Spoilers.
Yeah, she was she and the science officer I thought were two very interesting characters. I would have liked to see that for a little bit longer. But I really am interested to see how things continue on with that science officer. He seems like a very squirrely guy, but then when you get the character development and you kind of understand why, I felt that was very interesting. He probably, again, and the captain are probably the most solid characters as of now.
Yeah, and it was actually something in the last episode that I didn't mention, but I did like how there was a little bit of competition between Saru and Michael as well. When Saru's trying to do a scan of the device before they realize the device is actually a ship, and Michael comes in and does her little thing, and Saru's like, well, I could do more than just reading the screen for you if you'd like. So I do think there's going to be some more of that, and I'm looking forward to that. When they kind of deal with these two characters more on the new ship, which I'm guessing will be episode 3, but the way this has been a slow burn, I wouldn't be surprised to not see Discovery until January at this point.
Yeah.
But a couple things for me. I did like seeing the Klingons more again. I liked there was a lot of discussion about the culture of the Klingons, and Mike and I kind of discussed this in our introductory episode. We were concerned, at least I was concerned, I think Mike was too, about the Trump effect and how the writers were saying we're going to be dealing with this as kind of like building walls and doing all that. But really, at least for these first 2 episodes, it fit with the Klingons. Yes, the whole idea is coming together and having a unifier, and this guy thinks he's the second coming of Kahless. It's shot pretty quick, but
yep. And they make some that's very on the nose reference to the fact that the Klingons their thing about their beef with the Federation is that they reject that intermingling, the pollution of their race as they see it, and I like the way that it was done. I like the way it was handled in this episode.
Mm-hmm. I also like the little the discussion they had, and I think this guy is going to be more of a character because now Takavol is now dead. The albino Klingon, and the fact that he's like, some people may see your skin color as a problem. I see it as a mirror unto myself, and it's like, oh, cute. We have a light-skinned Klingon. Aw.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, I did enjoy that. I enjoyed seeing the Klingon High Council, and we've dealt with the Klingon High Council so much in TNG and in Deep Space Nine that we're kind of used to these guys in this very small set and a low production value with fire everywhere, and they're all yelling at each other. So I did like getting more into detail about that fact that the council is there, but they're really not very strong because they're warring factions amongst the houses and everything else. I did appreciate that. And again, I like this idea of what happens when a power in the galaxy has been kind of interfighting with itself, so you don't have to really worry about them too much. What happens when they get strong again? They decide to expand their borders. Takavo, or whatever, how you pronounce his name, dead guy, says when he's talking to the Shinzu, or I mean, actually, he may be talking to the Admiral at this point, but he says, your space is too close to my space, so I don't like it here anymore.
AKA, we need breathing room, I think.
I think that was what they were going for there, yes.
Where's Hitler, 1940?
Yeah.
38.
Another reason why Undiscovered Country is a very good movie. But the other thing, one last thing with the Klingons was I did appreciate was the oh shit moment when they take out the Europa. Because another thing that the Federation doesn't know at this point until right now is that now the Klingons have cloaking technology. Mm-hmm. And so when dead guy Takovo says, I can make my ships invisible too, and immediately cuts the Europa in half, that was pretty badass.
I must have missed something in that scene because I heard him make that remark, but I didn't understand the context of it because I thought, they've already revealed to the Federation that they can cloak. So was he referencing that he can make his ships cloak as compared to the other Klingons?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think it was the whole, even though I don't have a house and all your money, I can still do this too.
Yeah, and that makes sense with some of the other storyline that went on there.
But that being said, did they really reveal the cloaking before that? I mean, they had to use the sensor buffer to make it to where you couldn't see his...
There was that, but a ship decloaked.
Oh, did it? Okay, I missed that part. Okay. I do like one other thing with the Klingons is the whole... Let's just put all our dead bodies on the outside of the ship. I find that very Klingon.
Isn't that a cute touch? Yeah.
It's also kind of a Serenity touch too, if you think about it. But
it is, yeah.
What other things?
The ship design. The ship design seemed a lot like the Nekvar class, and right. I thought it was a really cool way of incorporating in that design without being without copying it.
Yeah, I agree, and It was interesting to see the other ship designs on the Klingon side. I'm going to talk about the ship designs on the Federation side on the other half here in a second. But they were very Klingon reminiscent with kind of the bird-looking designs, but they were definitely older designs. You didn't see any D7s flying around, and I appreciated that too.
Yeah, some of them were definitely more. I saw some reminiscence. They felt a little busier than they probably needed to be as far as looks go. But I did kind of. It's funny to me that wow, I just looked up his name because we keep butchering it. Tekabel.
Tekabel. Okay.
Dead
guy.
No, Tekuvma.
Oh, Tekuvma. Okay.
Yeah, it's awkward.
Dude with hole in his throat.
Yes. He apparently. It's weird to me that we got like some flashback scenes of him and didn't really explain where he came from, but kind of did. But at the same time, I'm like, wow, he's sort of a magic Klingon because he has the biggest ship and he also apparently invented cloaking technology, and now he's dead.
And when we were seeing the flashbacks tied in with the flashbacks we were having of Michael and Sarek, I was thinking, okay, these are our two main characters. We're gonna have them. We're gonna show they have the same kind of background. They both came from adversity. Their parents were killed, so forth and so on. No, this dude's dead, so he's not coming back.
Now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure his ship, and then whatever one rammed the Europa. We're the only two that actually decloaked. I don't think any of the other Klingons were shown having cloaking devices.
Well, that may be it. That may be his trump card, or now albino Klingon's trump card is they have better tech than the other houses. Because all but one house we do see says, yeah, we're in. We're good.
Yeah, and I'm sure that guy is going to become the primary antagonist as far as the Klingons go. Kor, I think, was his name.
Yeah, the one who did not go along with Hitler. Yeah.
Kol. There you go. Yeah.
Okay, so what are the things that you guys like about the episode?
I actually enjoyed their little foray into the I'm gonna forget the name of it. Their away mission to try and go capture Tekabel. I thought it was kind of a fun touch, as well as I appreciated their almost very unfederation feeling plan of attaching a bomb to a dead body. I thought it was all clever. I liked the touch of the Klingon corpses along the hull and how it all ended up playing out in the story is more than a cosmetic, flavor text kind of thing. But I will say that did feel a little bit not not honorable, not Federation, if you will.
Well, and it's also, we complained about how Michael and Philippa, and I cannot pronounce her last name, so I'm just going to call her Philippa, the captain who, again, isn't going to be around anymore. We complained in the last episode that they didn't talk it out. Instead, Michael immediately goes mutiny on her ass.
Yeah.
This one, we see what happens when they actually talk it out. Philippa has a really stupid idea of flying a shuttle at the ship and blowing it up, and then they start talking about there's got to be a better way of doing this and so forth and so on. And then they're like, yeah, we don't need to fly a shuttle. Let's just fly a dead body at them.
To be fair, they noticed that after they initially had the plan.
Okay. That's true.
And I did kind of feel like, there's a little bit of a forgive and forget moment. Granted, they're all trying to get out with their lives, and they'll deal with the mutiny stuff after the fact. But it got dropped very quickly.
And when they actually beam the device onto the body, at first it looked like the device was getting beamed into the body, which is even cooler.
I thought that too.
And then it just got attached to the top. I was like, that would have been cool if you kind of like stuck it in his stomach from the beam. That would have been great.
Not to get too much in the weeds, but what was the deal with the bilateral transport?
I missed that also.
Bilateral transport.
Yeah, it's like Sarek. It was when Sarek and Michael beamed aboard the ship. There was some remark made about that, and I don't know that there was.
It had to do with the fact that it wasn't just the top and bottom pad. There was something in the back, and she references because it was an old ship. It just definitely something new to Star Trek I'd never seen before, and it doesn't matter all that much. It was an interesting little piece.
And part of that could be just, again, referencing that we're kind of earlier on in the timeline, because with Enterprise, aside from a few times due to the power of plot, the transporter was really never used for humans. In fact, it wasn't allowed for humans. It was just storage moving. So they may be trying to point out the transporters are pretty new. I did like on the transporter side that they couldn't beam over the captain's body after she was dead, because without a life sign you can't beam. Because I'm pretty sure in later time that wouldn't have been a problem. They would have just beamed up the whatever it was. But without a life sign you can't beam.
Well, and honestly, it kind of, I mean, if they can beam cargo, what's the difference with a dead body, I suppose? But
True. Way to pick it apart, Mike. Fine.
I mean, I suppose the cargo had to be on a transporter pad in order to move it. You know, you can explain it away if you squint, so it's fine.
It was a cute little scene where she tried to go save her friend's body and she couldn't do it.
And to your point, they do make some pretty liberal use of the transporters in this series already, whereas we know they didn't in Enterprise. And the next thing that I can think of is, well, they used them a lot in TOS and almost made a deliberate point of trying to scare you about them during some of the live action the movies.
Yeah.
So,
McCoy almost melts.
Yep, there seemed to be a mishap where somebody turned into a pile of goo when they arrived on the refit Enterprise. So
it was the Klingon science officer who didn't become science officer.
He became a science project. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes. Very true. By again, plot device, we have to get rid of the science officer so we can bring Spock back. Let's just melt him.
Right.
And I do like the fact that McCoy, we're going into motion picture here, but I do like the fact that McCoy is the guinea pig. They don't actually fix the transporter. It's like, it's been a couple hours. It should work. Bring McCoy over. He grew a beard in the transport. I don't know what's going on. A couple other things for me. Go ahead.
I was glad to hear you say that you thought that 5 was worse than 1, because I just do not understand people who don't think that 5 is the biggest pile in the world.
I will say, I won't watch 1 anymore unless it is the director's cut. Robert Wise did a director's cut before he passed away. It came out in like 2002, 2003, I think. And it really helps the film. I mean, it's still long, and it still tries too hard to be 2001. But there's more special effects shots. There's some clipping and editing here and there that makes it a better movie. But I think TMP it's not the worst one. I think actually I would watch TMP before I would watch Nemesis again too. But that's just a whole other story. Or Insurrection for that matter.
I was just trying to think which ones have I only ever seen one time, and Insurrection has that distinct honor.
You saw that with me in a theater, sir.
Yep, and that was the only time I've ever watched it.
Our dad took it. My dad took it.
I don't hate it. I know it's derivative, but I don't hate it.
Yeah,
I just don't hate it.
It tried to be a TNG episode when we didn't want an episode. We wanted a movie.
Right.
Okay, back to Discovery.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really like about Star Trek that doesn't happen too often, especially in the newer stuff, maybe Enterprise did it more in season 4, but there's not really hard sci-fi interjected into Star Trek that much. And we got that for at least a brief moment when Michael is debating with the AI about what ethics is. I enjoyed that a lot.
Yeah, that was a pretty neat scene.
She's trying to sidestep the ethical protocol of the AI, and the AI is just pretty dumb. So it's just like, okay, I'll open the door for you. I like that.
And I'll jump in and clarify a remark, because I did kind of jump ahead and already say that I didn't care for that particular scene of her having to make the escape from the cell. I liked the interaction with the computer and how she had to talk the computer into letting her do it. But at the same time, one of the things that, again, if I look at any other like sci-fi series involving space, there's always somebody that has to go fly through space with no spacesuit. It's been done. So I was just kind of like, it was a ground moment.
I agree with you on that. And this girl is some kind of superhero, because in the course of a day, she's been irradiated to a point where her DNA was unspooling.
Unraveling.
Whatever the hell unspooling DNA looks like. It looks like a lot of burns on your face, I guess. And then she had to deal with at least 6 seconds of vacuum, and she came out okay. So, girls got the power of the plot behind her. What else we got?
Can we continue jumping into things we didn't like? Because then I'll go ahead and tack on.
Sure.
Also, power of plot. She has automatic built-in long distance to Sarek, apparently, whenever she wants.
Yeah, that was really bad.
That is the one thing that is going to bug the crap out of me as the show goes on.
Here's agreed. I think it's going to be a plot device that's going to annoy the hell out of me.
Mm-hmm.
Much like when we had to call Spock into darkness because Leonard Nimoy was on contract or something. There's no reason to do that. He doesn't need to tell you it's Khan. For one, it shouldn't be Khan. But that kind of phone a friend thing got really annoying in the second movie. And I think it's going to happen a lot here too because Sarek is a main character. But that being said, my hard sci-fi mind was like, I got to find a reason for this to make sense because I can't not. And it's quantum entanglement is what it is, basically. The idea that quantum material can be entangled, and if it is entangled, what happens to one quantum material on the other side of the universe can happen to the same material on the other side of the universe at the exact same time. It is quantum physics. It exists in theory. So if they wanted to argue it away as entanglement, that makes sense. That being said, it's a really bad plot device.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. Is I can justify things that I want to be okay with, like the Game of Thrones fast travel and that kind of stuff. This is bad writing. At least in the darkness, as horrible as that was, somebody had to go find a payphone and call other Spock that we know existed. This is literally like anytime we can't figure out how to solve this problem, we'll just phone a friend to Sarek.
I just got a vision of Leonard Nimoy answering the phone saying, "I've told you to stop calling me collect. Stop doing
exactly." But that is it, and it's like, yes, we could explain it away, but it's lazy and it's gonna bother me no matter how much they try.
And the other thing that's gonna bother me, and I know this is how they're gonna do it now because they've done it for 2 episodes so far, they're going to keep ignoring Spock. And yes, in this timeline, Sarek and Spock are not friends right now. They don't talk to each other, not going to talk to each other for another 10 years. Yeah. But if you're going to use Sarek, which you really shouldn't have done to begin with, we've already had that conversation, you need to at least tell us where the hell Spock is, because this is getting stupid.
Yeah.
Spock's on the Enterprise. We know where he is.
Well, and I will say I'm glad that they did. I don't know. Part of me is glad that they didn't mention it because it bothers me a lot more to think about the fact that Michael and Spock are like adopted siblings or something, versus the fact that she's like a pupil of Sarek. And to me, that's kind of how this has come off thus far, and there was no other mention that connected it more intimately, and I was more okay with it.
The Cybot thing was bad enough. This seems really forced.
Yeah, and also if you're a fan of the old stuff, it also weakens the character for Sarek too, because the interaction that Michael and Sarek had in the brig when they're doing their mind meld from across the stars thing, is he was saying that he probably failed her by not giving her more support and all of this. This is the exact same conversation that Spock and Sarek are going to have in Journey to Babel 10 years from now.
Mm-hmm. So
it took Sarek 10 years to have his conversation with his son after he already had it with his adopted daughter.
But Scott, we know that Sarek eventually loses his mind. We also know that making his long-distance phone calls puts an immense physical stress on him.
Oh, so okay. Now you're connecting unification.
I'm not happy about it, but yes, I am.
Guys, I'm really sorry, but I got to jump off here. I got a crying kiddo on my hands.
The joys of parenting. Well, if you come back on, do. If not, don't.
Okay. Okay. See you guys.
So we're gonna keep rolling. So the whole Sarek thing annoys the hell out of me. I agree with you there. what other things, Mike, maybe didn't ring as good for you as they should?
I can't think of too much. I mean, I can nitpick lots of stuff, like the fact that I still don't understand how Klingons have spaceships at all, with them having lit Sensi candles on their bridge and otherwise fighting amongst one another nonstop with the most ridiculous of masculine posturing.
But now we know with Saru that cows can join Starfleet. So
yeah, I suppose that's true as well. So I mean, there's stuff like that. There's stuff like, why did they only send 2 people on this what I would have assumed to be a suicide mission to try and go capture? I'm gonna look up his name. T'Kuvma. I'm like, why didn't they send like 10 guys over there? They didn't. I mean, again, you can come up with explanations about limited power or whatever to run the transporter. I don't know, but seemed like that's the kind of thing that you would have sent more than 2 people on a mission to go do.
And along with that too, I mean, obviously it's the trope in Star Trek that gets thrown out the most, but why do you send your captain and first officer on an away mission ever? Yep. I mean, maybe your first officer, and we know Riker has that argument with Picard a lot in TNG. Picard shouldn't go out on away missions. Philippa shouldn't go on away missions. She's the captain. She also shouldn't be the one running a shuttle suicide mission either.
Well, I was going to say, and I mean, that's like a going down with your ship kind of thing there, I suppose, which, yeah, arguably any subordinate should step up and say, no, you're not going to be the one that goes and does that. But, well, and we did see that they abandoned ship. So the plan was to hit them and then probably abandon ship and run, and that was her going down with the ship.
Yeah, much like, I mean, at that point, it's a no-win scenario. You are right. I mean, we saw that with the Europa in the fact that they knew they were toast, so they self-destructed. Which, did they ever show what happened to that ship?
They did not.
It disappeared.
They basically said that the Europa's explosion vaporized it, is what I took away from that. But at the same time, I pointed out already that T'Kuvma's ship was the biggest of all of the other Klingon ships that were appeared in the battle, or at least it appeared to be the largest, and they also made plenty of reference to it being the most magical, aside from having a cloaking device. It had some significance to the Klingons other than that.
Yeah, it was a very old ship, and
he
his
restored
dad had it.
Yeah, somehow.
Well, and they mentioned in the previous episode that some of the sarcophagi on the ship are thousands of years old. So this dude's been doing some grave robbing.
Yeah, it wasn't like they were like a handful of them on there. It was apparently like thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, that were all over the ship's hull.
Yeah.
But again, and then this second ship that was part of T'Kuvma's group decloaked and rammed the Europa, and I mean, T'Kuvma's ship was huge compared to the Shenzhou, so I'm assuming this one was equally huge, if not more huger. But it's gone now. So.
Yeah, it disappeared or blew up or something. And the ships, this is my only other complaint, I kind of alluded to when I was talking about the Klingon ships, is I'm disappointed in what I saw in the Federation fleet. Yes, I get that this is a proto-Federation. They're not going to be as strong. I mean, even in TOS, there usually wasn't that many ships out there. I'm okay with that. But it's only 10 years before original series. Where are the Constitution class ships? I mean, I expected to at least see something like that, but these are all, they look very TNG to me. They're all kind of the Akira steam runner type looking ships. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, but there is some weirdness going on, because to me the Shenzhou looked a lot like the NX-01 Enterprise, which, as we've mentioned in the last one, looks an awful lot like an Akira that you see, many hundreds of years later still. So obviously, just I think there's a cyclical pattern probably that happens in engineering, just like in fashion, and so you start to see some ships that look similar to their predecessors. And I think some of the ships that you saw in this battle definitely had resemblances to other things we've seen from the Federation. There there's a 4 nacelle variant of a ship there that looked an awful lot like
the Constellation class.
The Constellation class. Thank you. I was reaching for it. Picard's former post.
Yeah, I did see that. And the Europa had 4 nacelles too, didn't it?
I don't know if it had 4 nacelles. The nacelles were hard to spot on these because they're square.
Yeah, they're very compact. That's for sure.
But to me, that ship looked an awful lot like a Miranda.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Or like the Reliant. So I think the designs they came up with for the Federation were a lot more faithful to what we've seen of the Federation throughout Star Trek continuity, whereas the Klingon ships, T'Kuvma's looked, as we said, pretty similar to the Klingon
Negvar.
The Negvar, or even the other one, the Vorcha. I think it was.
Yeah, Vorcha.
But the other ships, I didn't get. They looked like a super exaggerated bird of prey that was just really busy.
Yeah, I hear you that.
Didn't care for them.
I think I just biased myself because when the fleet showed up, I expected to see a Constitution class ship. I didn't expect to see. I didn't want to see the Enterprise. Yeah,
you wanted to see something big and flashy, and what you got were a whole bunch of like line ships.
And maybe maybe we're leading to that. Maybe a Constitution class ship is going to show up sooner or later.
If this show goes on long enough, I would practically guarantee that you'll see the USS Constitution show up.
I mean, and it's not that I want to see. I love that ship design. It's it's right behind my head, but I want to see that connection to TOS. Yeah. We're obviously they're going to do that when some things. I mean, they keep pushing Harry Mudd on the trailers over and over again, so we're going to have that kind of referencing. But if you're going to make this 10 years before TOS, which again means the Enterprise is out there, it's under the command of Captain Pike, and Spock is the science officer. I mean, we should be seeing some of that. I mean, the USS Farragut is out there with Lieutenant Kirk right now.
Yeah, so if we're going into all-out war, you're going to have to see some of those names in the continuity show up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, I don't want to see somebody trying to play Spock or Kirk, but at least reference to that kind of stuff would make the nerd in me very happy.
Sure.
But at that point, I'm just nitpicking because, again, as we've kind of mentioned with the first episode, and we'll talk about here with the second episode very quickly, is I'm very happy with what I'm seeing so far. I am, again, I think it helps that I came in with really low standards and a really low bar when I came into this thing. But so far, we've gotten a very one ship centric episode, and now we've gotten a battle episode, and both of them I think held up pretty well.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I think it's been really good so far, and we can go ahead and I think talk about the fact that I definitely think this show is about to take, as you said, the off-ramp onto a different highway and follow a different trajectory with some of the same people and a lot of new ones. And I get did you see the trailer for episode 3? Yes, I did.
Okay.
I think that was more than episode 3, though. I think that was like
in the future of the season. Yeah, which is again like a joke. I don't know when we're actually going to see the Discovery.
Yeah, I mean, it may be a while.
At the end of this episode, Michael is sentenced to life in prison. Okay, because of her mutiny, and she damn well deserves it because I think she also started war with the Klingons. So
what's funny is I kept waiting during that scene. I kept waiting for like Jason Isaacs' character to walk in and be like,
"I have an idea."
Yeah, nope, I want her or something like that, and it didn't happen. So I agree. I don't know that we'll see the Discovery right away. I think we might, but they might also take their time. Getting Michael there.
Agreed. And now that I mentioned that scene, it reminded me that was another complaint I had was the Federation. I have noticed on this show so far that they're not going for a very dark tone, and I appreciate that. The ships are well lit. There's not as much lens flare. The uniforms are bright and colorful. So I appreciate all that. Why the hell is a tribunal in the dark?
That was weird, and again, I think that played into the fact that I kept waiting for one of the lights to turn on, and us to find out that it's Jason Isaacs. It wasn't.
I mean, it strikes me as something very un-Federation. It should be in the bright light, much like the much like the court-martial of the Enterprise crew in Star Trek 4 at the very end, The Voyage Home.
Yeah, it was a real weird scene at the end of this one. I feel like it was a deliberate choice more for dramatic effect than anything, but it was not in keeping with the I don't know what you want to call it.
The aesthetic, maybe?
Aesthetic, I guess, yeah.
But I agree with you. We're definitely going to see a turn because, again, as I mentioned in the past episode, the lead writers of the show now have said that episode 3 is the second pilot. So I'm going to guess that we're going to get Isaacs finally. We're going to get Discovery, which still looks god-awful ugly to me. And for some reason, the Discovery is picking up crew from prison ships. So
yeah, I'm going to change my predictions for the series.
Just please go
for where we started. If we want to jump into that, based on what I saw largely in that trailer for the rest of the season, which is, again, I think it's interesting that we've seen so little of anything in trailers that go beyond the first 2 episodes. I think there's going to be some craziness that goes on with the Discovery itself. I think there's a very deliberate reason that it looks so much not like the rest of the Federation ships, and I think that's kind of affirmed now that we just discussed how the other Federation ships we've seen, and there was a variety of them, all looked very similar to one another. And then there's the Discovery. I think there's a reason. It's got some experimental mojo going on, and obviously it's going to have some, I think, under the table experimental mojo going on, hence the prison labor that they're looking to pick up. And there were a couple of lines in there that make me think that while I do believe Jason Isaacs' character will ultimately kind of be a going rogue type of character that's going to lead him into conflict with Michael, I am changing my prediction to say this. I don't think it's going to be that he wants to go out and be a war criminal. I actually think something is going to happen with Discovery technology breakthrough-wise that might even have larger impacts on like the whole universe. Yeah, I think it's entirely possible that Isaac's character is going to go from more being a warlord or something to a god complex type of character.
Well, and that would be very interesting. It's interesting you mentioned god complex too, because I go back to the kind of the meta thing that we all know now that with Axanar and the idea of what Axanar was in the original timeline, the fact that the film, the fan film got kiboshed, and I seriously think because we're going to deal with Axanar a little bit in here, is the main hero of Axanar is Garth of Izar, who we see in the original series, and he basically turns himself into a god of some sorts after this and goes kind of crazy. So it'd be interesting to see if maybe Isaacs is going to play that kind of role down the road. I still say Isaacs has to be bad. I
think he's going to go bad, but I think the nature of I think he's going to go worse than we previously thought. I guess.
So you think he's going to go full tilt crazy? Okay.
I don't think he's just going to try and keep a war going or kill Klingons. I think he's going to get some new technology or something that's going to push him to like galaxy affecting implications.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the things that I think is going to happen too is obviously we've got the storyline of Michael's redemption, and part of that redemption is going to have to be sooner or later to prove Philippa wrong in the fact that Philippa said, you're not cut out for command. I made a mistake. You're not cut out for command. So obviously, to square that circle up, sooner or later, she's going to have to take over command. And I think that's going to happen. The other thing, too, is we saw with this trailer of the season, based on that, is we see his first officer, Isaac's his first officer, in a very brief scene. At least I assume that's his first officer. And she's arguing with him, saying basically, "What the hell are you doing?" And he's saying, "I'm going to change the rules." So I think we're right in there too, in the fact that this guy has some ulterior motives. And going back to another line we've seen from him, in the fact that he says, "You started this war, don't you want to help me finish it?" Well, how are you going to finish this war?
Well, and he also mentions in one of those trailers, he says a line about, "We're inventing a new way to fly," which almost makes me think they might be discussing time travel.
Oh God, I hope not. Oh God,
I kind of hope not too.
Oh God, no.
Yeah, I kind of hope not also, because that would be.
Enterprise got so much better when they jettisoned Future Guy and just got rid of him. Just done. We're done. I hope time travel doesn't come into this thing at all. But, stranger things have happened. We do know a Mirror Universe episode is coming. Jonathan Frakes let that one slip.
I'm still not sure if that's legit or not, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It wouldn't surprise me either. But no, I'm looking forward to this show. I mean, we'll get into our ranking of this episode here in a minute, but one of the things I complained about in our intro episode was the Vulcan Hello was a really stupid title for a pilot. Even when I know the context now, I think it's still a stupid episode name. But they're doing some old TOS type stuff here and some old TNG stuff. I mean, episode 3 is called Context is for Kings. But episode 4 is probably one of the coolest titles I've ever heard for a Star Trek episode. I have no idea what it's about yet. The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry.
That's hardcore. That's like metal. That's the title of a metal song.
And the sky opened up or whatever. I mean,
usually
we're so used to Insurrection, First Contact, Nemesis, Beyond. The Butcher's Knife Cares Not for the Lamb's Cry. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, let's go ahead and go into our scores here. And Kevin sent his apologies via Facebook. He will not be able to join us because he has a teething 11-month-old. I completely understand, and so does Mike. But he did send his score along to us. And for those who are just joining us for the first time, we score TV shows based on other TV shows in its franchise. So we're going to be rating this show on a 1 to 10 scale as it would rate to other Star Trek episodes, including the Vulcan Hello that we just rated last episode. So a 10 would be one of the best Star Trek episodes of all time. A 5 would be an average Star Trek episode. A 1 would be, as I mentioned earlier, Cat's Paw, Threshold, things of that nature.
So where would you rate an episode of The Orville in this?
I actually have only seen the pilot episode so far.
Same here.
But I would probably give it a 7. I really liked the Orville first episode. I'm not. I won't
say that I really liked it, but I do intend to keep watching it.
Yeah, I have episode 2 and 3 downloaded. And I didn't download it. I used on demand from DirecTV, so I am being legal. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. I think it's definitely I wouldn't even call it a parody. I think it's a straight up homage to TNG. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm sorry I did this, but I agree. I don't think it's a parody. I think it's struggling to figure out what it is a little bit, honestly. It was the most TNG thing I've seen since TNG, and yet it did also have the occasional Seth MacFarlane joke interjected, but it also had like a weird amount of heart.
Yeah, something tells me that Seth MacFarlane, sometime in the past 5 or 6 years, went to Les Moonves, the president of CBS, and said, I want to make a Star Trek show. Here's my idea. And then Les Moonves is like, hell no. And so MacFarlane goes, I want to make a Star Trek parody show, Fox. You love me.
Well, I mean, we know he's a Trekkie.
Oh, absolutely.
He did Enterprise.
Yeah, several times, actually.
Yeah, yep.
In one episode, he actually had a mild plot that went around him. So Orville, I'm sure we'll talk about more as we watch more episodes. But I'm intrigued by Orville, that's for damn sure. So again, back to our scoring of this show. So again, 1 through 10, 10 being the best Star Trek episodes of all time, 1 being the worst, 5 being average. I will say Kevin's score is a 6. He liked it, but he liked the first one much better. He gave the first one a 7. So that's his score. Mike, what would your score be for Battle at the Binary Stars?
I do love me some space battles, but I gotta say that this episode was a bit more of a roller coaster in terms of having some high points with, again, cool space battles and cool character interactions and things, but it also had more low points with long distance Sarek calls and things like that. So I still overall really enjoyed it. I thought it was compelling, so I'm going to back my score down to a 7, whereas the last one was an 8. I still think it's very, very good.
Yeah, I'm going to do the exact same thing. I still think this is above average Star Trek episode, and by far some of the best Star Trek that we've seen, at least in a long time. But I do think Vulcan Hello was a stronger episode, and part of that is because I got a lot more concerns and kind of nervous twitches out of this episode than I did the previous one. And hopefully, when the new writers' room hits full steam ahead in episode 3, some of this stuff will even itself out, and we'll see. But I'm going to give this a 7 as well, and I gave Vulcan Hello an 8. So again, above average episode, right in the middle of a really good episode, and I'm hoping to get more of that. I think I'm pleasantly surprised as of now.
Yeah.
Mike, go ahead, Mike.
I was just going to throw this out there because it just occurred to me. What if the technology or whatever in my prediction isn't time travel? What if it has to do with the mirror universe?
Oh.
What if it's not just a one-shot episode? What if that's actually something that the whole plot is headed towards?
Oh. So maybe Isaacs will grow a mischievous mustache, and
maybe he wants to recruit more Isaacs to come help him.
Oh, God. Oh. A lot of Isaacs running around. We'll see. No, that's the one thing I'm very happy about this right now, is if you told me a Sunday ago that we would be somewhat excited to try to figure out what's going to happen next, I don't know if I would have believed you or not.
I agree.
But I think the fact that this episode hasn't scared me off is something that is very much a good thing there. But yeah, I think we can kind of, Mike, unless you have anything else you want to add, I think I think we can go ahead and wrap this thing up for this episode. Again, just for those who are just joining us, we intend to do a review of every episode of Discovery as it comes out. They will be dropping at 7:30 Central Time on Sundays on CBS All Access. So you can expect us to do the live review soon after that, and then we'll drop the podcast into our feed that night or Monday morning. So you'll be able to catch those up. They're going to be the first 8 episodes will be right in a row. And obviously we're 2 episodes in, so we'll have 6 more to go. And then there will be a break on November and December. And then at the end of January, the last 7 episodes will start releasing. So we'll follow those as we go. And then by then, I'm assuming we'll hear if there's going to be a season 2 and what that may look like. And then we'll just roll this show on from there as we go. So until next time, I am Scott. And with me has been Kevin, who's not here now, and
Mike.
And until next time, we will see you on the couch, and live long and prosper. Oh, and give us a rating wherever you're checking this out, because we like ratings. Don't care what the rating is, just give us a rating. Thanks.